Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason and I am your watch guy today. Today I am reviewing a watch from Pagani Design. Nothing new there. However, this is the first watch that Pagani Design have released with the PT-5000 movement. That is China's answer to the SW200. We've seen it plenty in the likes of San Martin, however we've never seen it in Pagani Design. So this one really does mark a turning point for them. Well, I hope it does anyway. This has been sent to me for free by the Pagani Design wristwatch store. I've linked them in the description. The sale is now on and this one has come down to £143, which for the quality that you receive with this watch, I personally believe it's very much worth it. It's become one of my favourite daily wears. It just looks absolutely beautiful, and if you're looking for a vintage style watch with a modern twist or a modern build quality, I think this is the one for you. So let me turn this camera around and let me introduce you to the PD-1723. I'm going to start this one off with a pretty bold statement, and it's a bold statement because you all know how many of these watches I've seen, how many Pagani designs that I've seen, how many Aliexpress watches I've seen. This is 100% my new favourite Pagani design piece. I think this is the best one that they sell at the moment. I genuinely, out and out, in terms of quality, build and specifications and even value for money, I think this is the best you are getting from Pagani Design right now. It is their homage to the early reference Rolex Air Kings. Now the Rolex Air Kings came around in the 1950s. Prior to that, Rolex were already printing Air King on their dials for other pieces, other references. However, the actual model, the Air King, came around in the 50s. I think it might have been 58. And that's when these references started to become quite popular, especially because of their more sporty, adventurous type of look. And they resembled the early explorers for me. Well, they led the way for the early explorers, I think. So let's talk about this piece in particular. This is Pagani Design's PD-1723. It is packed with the PT-5000 movement. That is a high beat clone to the SW200, which is a clone to the ETA. Now, that is a quality movement. A lot of people are a bit on the fence with this movement due to the fact that it's not long-term tested. However, each one that I've had no issue with, and I've really enjoyed them. And it gets you on board with that really smooth sweeping motion that you can see there around the dial. Really do enjoy that. The real selling point to this for a lot of people will be the dimensions. It is 36.8 millimeters in diameter here to here. It is 12.5 millimeters thick, 44.1 millimeters lug to lug, and the lugs are 20 mil lugs. Now, obviously, very wearable on wrist, and as well as that, it's a very easy wear. It's a very enjoyable wear. Personally, I've really enjoyed using this as a little bit of a daily driver, and it has caught the attention of a couple of people while I've been in work. So you can tell usually that that's a sign of it being a good looking piece. Obviously, we don't really owe the looks to Pagani themselves. It is heavily homaged from Rolex. However, they have pulled it off quite well, I think. So we have a screw down crown over to the side here. It has a good level of grip. First position is a ghost date position, unfortunately. Second position is the handset, and it actuates quite nicely. It does feel pretty nice. Nicely fitted to the movement, the crown. Signed with the Pagani Design logo. Unfortunately, it is upside down. The casing itself is built fully in 316L stainless steel. I'll just show you the case back quite quickly. It is a very simple case back on this one, which is actually a change for Pagani. I think that is a change in the right direction because this simple type of case back goes down well with these types of homages. We don't need to see a display case back on every single piece. Now, screw down case back and a screw-in crown. We would expect a good level of water resistance from this one. However, it is 200 meters, which I think is beyond what we would probably expect from Pagani Design in the market at the moment. 200 meters makes this very suitable for wet wear. if you want to take it for a little splash on your holidays, if you want to get it wet in the shower, you know, anything like that, I think that this one will stand up that test. The 316L stainless steel is presented in a mixture of brushing and polishing throughout the casing. As you can see, very high polish sides, a little bit of a fingerprint magnet there, a little bit of a dirt magnet. The bezel itself fixed in place is again high polish, but it is accented very nicely with the brushing on the upper lugs of this piece. Now, I think that the finishing on this Pagani is a standard above we usually get from Pagani. Just the delicacy of that brushing, I think, really does set off the watch and accents that heavily polished bezel very nicely, and does give it the vintage aesthetic that Pagani have had to go after here. Finishing off the casing, we have a domed tabletop sapphire crystal. Very premium feeling, premium looking addition to the casing. Now, you can see a little bit of distortion towards the edges, and it does give that sort of domed plexiglass type of feel to the crystal itself, which I think a lot of people will definitely appreciate. As we move into the dial itself, you can see that the black and gilt colour choices are really playing nicely from each other. We have a polished effect to the indices throughout the dial. As you can see, we have pointed triangles with actually a little bit of a 3D shape to them. They do stand off the dial, quite nicely applied indices here, and they do have a nice finishing shape to them that reflects the light very nicely. At the 9, 3 and 6 indices, we have Arabic numerals that are also loomed in the center. They again have a gilt edge finish to them. One thing that I will say is that the retro aesthetic to those numerals is pretty spot on for me. I think that they've gone with the right type of font, and they've carried that off very well with the rest of the dial. We have a minute track around the outer edge, which does aid in legibility for this piece. It is a very easy to read piece with the sizing to the handset, second hand and hour hand. That minute hand reaches straight up to the minute track itself. The second hand reaches to the edge of the dial, and that hour hand sitting just within the indices, which is, for me, a really good fit. Up to 12 o'clock, we have the Pagani Design logo. That is again applied to the dial, and it is in that gold gilt type of colour option. Now, that does give a really nice effect to the dial. It gives it a vintage effect for me. And when we look at it a little bit closer, you can see that the lume is slightly off-white, which again goes very well with the period or the aesthetic of the watch that they are trying to carry off here. My favourite part about the dial is the 12 o'clock triangle. Let me just move the handset for you so you can see that. As you can see, it's very nicely stylized, almost an Art Deco type of vibe to the triangle at the 12 o'clock. One person did point out to me that this does really scream Seiko Alpinist, early Seiko Alpinist to them, that triangle at the 12. Personally, this is definitely a Rolex homage for me. However, it is a nice little addition to it, I feel. Now, the handset does have a very nice ornate type of vibe to it. An arrowhead style to the hour hand with a sword type of style to the minute hand. They do have loomed centers with that gilt edge finish. The second hand completes this dial with a little splash of colour. Now, not everyone's going to be a fan of that. I think that it really does elevate the design for me. I think that adds a little bit of a splash of character to the dial myself. However, not everyone is going to be a fan of that. It is a pencil style second hand with a lollipop counterbalance. Let me get the lights out. Let's have a look at the lume on this one. Okay, so the lume spread is limited on this piece. Obviously, we only have the 12 o'clock, 3, 6 and 9. Now, to be fair, I think the dial isn't so bad. However, you can see for yourself that the handset really does let this piece down. And with that being said, the dial can be as loomed as it possibly wants. If that handset doesn't hold up, then it's pointless to have anything loomed, unfortunately. So that is really a big letdown for myself. I think that Pagani should have done a much better job on the handset lume. And for me, this is probably a 3 out of 10 in terms of the lume shot. Unfortunate, to be honest. Now, as we move away from the head of the watch, we move on to this bracelet, and it is an Oyster style bracelet, which has a nice taper towards the wrist. They're not using the usual Rolex style clasp on this one. It is more of a fitting piece to the actual period. 3 levels of micro adjust. Pagani Design logo on the fold over safety clasp there, double pushers, and we have a milled clasp in the center. The clasp itself is quite short. However, I don't really have an issue with that. I would have liked to have seen 4 micro adjusts. Everyone knows that is my standard in the watch industry. I think 4 is where we should all be. Screw links on this one, as you would expect from Pagani Design. A nice feature is that they have added a female end link, which does make this watch even more wearable. I mean, it's wearable anyway with the size of the piece itself. Fully brushed throughout this bracelet. Let me get it on wrist for you and let's have a look. Okay, as you can see, fits my 6¼ inch wrists very well. This is definitely becoming my favourite sizing for a watch, I think, the 36 mils, around that type of area. I think that it fits my wrist size perfectly. It slopes to wrist quite nicely, and the bracelet does the job well, especially with those female end links. I think that they really do aid in the wearability of this piece. Where do my moans lie with my new favourite Pagani Design? Well, first and foremost, we have to mention that Lume, don't we? It's absolutely bloody shocking. As I say, there's no point to having a fantastic Lume on the dial. I mean, the Lume on the dial could be 10 out of 10. If the handset isn't functional, isn't legible, it's pointless. You can't see the time. So what's the point in seeing it? As I say, pointless. Absolutely pointless. And that really did let this piece down for me. Now, a lot of people did comment on the unboxing of this one. They're not a fan of the PT-5000 print on the dial itself at the 6 o'clock. That I can understand. It's not going to be for everyone. Personally, I don't really mind it. However, they could have filled that gap with some other text. Maybe keep it simple, automatic, something like that. Not everyone is going to be a fan of that PT-5000 text. I don't mind it myself, but from the comments on the last video, I'm definitely going to have to mention that as the moan. And as well as that, the green hand is another moan for a lot of people personally. I quite like it. I think it adds a nice little bit of colour. But a lot of people thought that it cheapened the dial or took away from the style of the watch. Personally, I think it gives a little bit of a modern twist, a little flair of colour on that dial. I think that pays off well on this. But again, not for everyone. Now, to end my moan section, I am going to have to talk about the price. It is £174 on the Pagani Design wristwatch store. They are the gents that sent me this one in. I am very appreciative of that because I was really keen to get my hands on it. Now, £174 is starting to play towards the San Martin type of market. I mean, it's not the high-end type of San Martin. It is very much the budget end where they use the Miyota 8215 and other shocking movements like that. So it's definitely a better movement. However, I do think that the finishing on the San Martins is always going to be better than this Pagani. And at 175, we are starting to question whether it is worth it. What I would like to say is, I think it's 100% worth it. I think that you will really, really enjoy this piece if this is your type of style and your type of fit. I think you'll love it. It's a perfect everyday wear. It just goes well with any sort of lifestyle. However, what I will say is that if I wasn't sent this piece for a review, I probably wouldn't have taken the risk on putting my hand in my pocket and buying it myself. So take from that what you will. Personally, I think it's very much worth the purchase. I think during the sales, this will probably come down to around 150, and that is definitely the type of price that I think you should be buying at. And I do think it's well worth it at that price. I just know that a lot of people will be quite hesitant because it is a Pagani Design and they don't have the same stature, the same reputation as San Martin and the likes. So I understand why people will be hesitant of this one. However, I do, as I said, I will reiterate, I think it's well worth the money. So that's it, guys. That's probably my new favourite Pagani Design. And it's probably a lot to do with the fact that it's so easily wearable on wrist, fits into everyday life so easily, and as well as that, it's packed with a high beat PT-5000 movement. Now that PT-5000 movement really is the selling point for this watch, and I hope that this means that Pagani Design are going to continue to use it. They're using high beat movements, using better materials. Really, now we just need them to fix the goddamn Lume. Thank you for watching this one, guys. If you'd like to pick this watch up, then I have an affiliate link in the description. That does provide me with a little bit of a kickback, but you pay no extra. Thank you again to Pagani Design wristwatch store for sending this one in. I really do appreciate it, and they have supplied me with another watch to show you very soon. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.